Okay, welcome everybody. My name's Tyler Nunnally. I serve as the strategist for FinaMetrica here in the United States. We'll be joined by Alex, who's the Director of Support at Rixtrema. We're going to talk about the FinaMetrica and Rixtrema integration today, which brings together two best-of-breed advisor tools to help you document the process and in a prudent process and a methodology to link FinaMetrica's risk tolerance scores to a appropriate asset allocation. So what we're going to do is just start as far as the agenda is concerned. I'm just going to walk through a couple PowerPoint slides here for you, and then I'm going to turn it over to Alex to talk about the integration. So let's start with the three parts of the DOL best interest standard. Three different parts are prudence, individualization, and loyalty. So what really pops out here are a couple terms that I think are extremely important as far as adherence to the DOL best interest standard, those words being care, skill, prudence, and diligence. Then one of the words that you see with individualization is risk tolerance. So as many of you know, FinaMetrica is the worldwide leader in risk tolerance assessment. So this part is the prudent process. The prudent standard is incorporated in the best interest standard, is an objective standard of care that requires investment advice fiduciaries to investigate and evaluate investments. So that's what we're going to talk about as far as the Rixtrema crash testing software, and make recommendations and exercise sound judgment. So as it relates specifically to risk tolerance questions, which are kind of the front end of what we're talking about here in terms of the integration, you'd like to probably ask yourself and your firm and your compliance folks whether asking a couple risk tolerance questions is enough to arrive at an accurate response. Is that prudent? Once again, based on the words that we looked at earlier. In our opinion, certainly two questions would not be enough. Is using a risk tolerance tool that has no scientific basis and or evidence that it actually works diligent. We would ascertain that it certainly is not. And is asking risk tolerance questions that have nothing to do with risk tolerance, exercising duty of care. So what do you see pretty standard across the industry is our risk tolerance questionnaires that really are asking questions other than risk tolerance. Also importantly, they're incorporating time horizon into the risk tolerance questionnaire. So time horizon is really a sub-factor of capacity for loss, and it's not part of risk tolerance. So the way we like to really describe it is you have the willingness to take risk and the ability to take risk. The willingness is dependent on psychology, emotions, that's your risk tolerance. The ability is more dependent on how much risk you actually need to take in order to achieve your goals, and certainly your capacity for loss. So will your skill and judgment ever be called into question in the court of law? And is your process legally defensible? So those are questions that you'd certainly want to ask yourself. Some questions relative to the risk tolerance questionnaire that you'd want to ask, or risk tolerance tool. Have the validity and reliability of the risk tolerance questionnaire been established through retest studies? So importantly, to have a valid risk tolerance methodology, tool, or questionnaire, you have to have retest data that shows that it is valid. What I mean by that is if someone comes in and scores a 59 out of 100 the first time they take it, they come back the second time, score 59 or relatively close to that. So FinaMetrica has that data going back to 1998 when we first launched. At this point, we've completed over 1 million FinaMetrica risk profiles. So we certainly have the retest data substantiate that. There's many academic papers out there. As a matter of fact, one that was just published in the FPA Journal of Financial Planning that uses FinaMetrica data to show that over a 5-year period of time with a sample size of 4,066, the same respondents with the retest data that our scores actually remain very stable throughout that. In fact, there was less than 1% change overall. So another question you want to ask, is there a technical manual for the risk tolerance questionnaire? What is the risk tolerance questionnaires track record? Has it been proven through market cycles? And lastly, are there academic or independent studies to confirm the stability of the results, particularly across market cycles? So those are things you certainly want to consider on the risk tolerance side. what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change presenters and turn this over to Alex, who will discuss Rixtrema and the world-class portfolio crash testing software. Okay, Alex, I'll turn it over to you. Got it? Good.
Thank you. Yep. I have it. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alex Tarduptsov. I'm a Director of Support at Rixtrema. And today I will present to you the RA Fiduciary Optimizer tool developed by Rixtrema. In the beginning, I just want to mention and give you a little bit of background about Rixtrema. Rixtrema is the company started 6 years ago. We started to work with large institutional companies, providing them with risk platform that helped them to stress test their portfolios. And a few years ago, we decided to work with advisors and build a web-based application called Portfolio Crash Test, which is part of the RA Fiduciary Optimizer that allows advisors to stress test their portfolios and measure the risk of their portfolios. Now, let me start with RA Fiduciary Optimizer. In the beginning, I want to mention that it has multiple capabilities of integration, and of course, we integrated with FinaMetrica. But in terms of portfolio loading, we integrated with other custodians like TD Ameritrade, Morningstar, Allbridge, Black Diamond, etc. But we also try to make uploading portfolios for our clients as easy as possible. So we use upload from file feature. It allows you to download any file from any custodian like Schwab, Fidelity, and then put this into our system with a click of a button. The next step in our application is to make sure that advisor is selecting the right buy list. So the buy list is pretty much any funds that advisor allowed to put together and use to construct their portfolios. They can create as many lists as they want and upload it in here using upload feature. At this moment, I'm going to use open architecture, and I will use to draw for the lower fee funds and better performing funds in my next report. The rest of the settings are straightforward. I'm always suggesting to my clients to keep alternatives must outperform checkbox, at least 1 or 2 boxes checked, which will help me to improve my reports. Now, I want to emphasize that the objective of this application, as I take it to the lower fee alternatives report, is to achieve the credibility with your prospects and clients by helping them to see that you have a process that takes them through stages where you're helping them to improve the cost efficiency, the performance, and the risk of their portfolios. The second objective of this application is to document that you acted in the best interest of your clients by helping them achieve these goals, such as better fees, better performance, better risk. And the third objective that I will discuss at the end is to supercharge your marketing and sales with a plan screener, which is a powerful tool linked with Department of Labor database called eFast. Now, in the first report, the lower fee alternative report, we load your portfolio or plan, and we see the lineup of that portfolio on the left side. Now, we're using the quantitative algorithms to find the similarity. Similarity is the measure that quantifies the correlation of the funds in the plan with the funds on your buy list. For the fund to make on a low buy list, a low fee buy list, it has to have similarity of 0.9. This is a cutoff point, and in our system benchmark for it is Dow Jones and S&P. Their similarity is 0.9. So when you see the similarity of 0.99, it means that these two funds are almost indistinguishable in terms of how they move together and their underlying holdings. Now, the big difference between two funds is you see the expense ratio. The fund that we suggest, which is very similar, has an expense ratio of 6 basis points relative to the fund in the plan, which has expense ratio of 123 basis points. So because of such a difference in expense ratio, you will be able to help them to generate savings, which we show here. This savings will grow at default assumptions for 10 years at 6% return. You can change these assumptions. And in the upper right corner, right over here, we have aggregate rollover saving calculator. So we say that this plan can be improved, and with these improvements, you will be able to help your clients and prospects to generate savings of $56,000 over the next 10 years, with the assumption that these savings will grow at 5% return, which is equal roughly to 36 basis points per year. Now, the other boxes here, they can be used to make this report complete. So you can add the annual contribution either from or make assumption about this. You can add the 401k fees, which can be extracted from 404A5 filing. This is the fee that the plan participant is paying out of his pocket for plan management. And if you're charging or planning to charge the prospect more money than the 401k fees, you enter your advisory fee here. And in this example, even though you're charging more by 40 basis points, you are still able to generate savings from them. But your fees will be justified that you're offering them superior service in terms of plan, fee structure, and in terms of performance, and in terms of risk. So you're offering a lot more services than just taking their money and putting their money into some funds. Now, with the next report called performance, you are able to continue to establish your credibility, and you can point out to your prospect or client that the portfolio that you're selecting for them has a better performance over 1, 3, 5, 10 years, depending on what checkboxes you check. So your portfolio not only superior in terms of cost efficiency, but it's also superior in terms of performance. So it should definitely catch the attention of the prospect or the client when you show these two things to them. Now, the next report that I want to show to you is called Portfolio Crash Tester. In this report, you have the ability to act as a risk manager. So initially, you start with two charts. Your original portfolio on the left side and your proposed rollover portfolio on the right side. Initially, as you see, the crash rating of both portfolios more or less the same. So which means that you haven't changed the asset allocation. You simply found better funds that has better performance, which you can see in the long-term return, but at the same time, they're more cost efficient. If the client is concerned about risk, you can act as a risk manager and help them to reallocate portfolio and make this portfolio better in terms of risk as well. Besides looking at the stress test, which you can see here, you can look at allocation and the distribution of both portfolios, where you can see the Sharpe ratio and standard deviation, profit and loss of both portfolios, and you can compare them. You can compare them and their performance over the time. This is a retirement planning tool that allows you to input different parameters such as retirement horizon. When you change it, your performance changes with that. You can enter the saving and withdrawing assumptions. You can enter the assumption of market correction, because as we know, portfolios don't grow up for forever. They they take a nosedive. So adding market crash into the picture is making your retirement planning more realistic. And we have the ability to customize the cash flow here too. With that, I'm going to return back to compare TCT, where if the client is concerned about the risk, you can help them to optimize it. First of all, you can always, and I would recommend do it all the time, to send a questionnaire to your prospects, clients, and ask them about their risk tolerance. This is very valuable, and it will help you to improve your documentation that you act in their best interest, which is in line with fiduciary rule. Once you send the questionnaire and get the feedback, you will be able to see two scores side by side. The risk score of portfolio, which is quantified in our system, and the risk tolerance based on FinaMetrica risk questionnaire. So if these two scores, they misalign, you have the ability to optimize by creating another portfolio with different asset allocation. So for example, if my questionnaire scores 55, something like this, I can simply grab my crash rating score and pull it towards 55 and leave it there. So now, as you see, I am achieving multiple goals here. I am making sure that I take in consideration the risk tolerance of my clients, so I'm acting in their best interest. I'm helping them to reduce their risk, so you can see that from the new set of stress test bars, which show you the new set of losses under the new crash rating number, and I'm designing new allocations here. So with allocation, you will be able to see that the inner pie is your initial allocation. With the outer pie, you optimize allocation, where you're allocating more money towards fixed income, and that's what makes your portfolio safer and more sound in terms of asset allocation. Now, you will be able to document every single step you take in the best interest of your clients with a summary report that quickly summarize what you did for them. So you help them with the fees, you help them with portfolio performance, you help them with risk, and when you're ready to send them this, you can also add your comments to justify your fees in this section. Now, we have the ability to create PDF in our report. You can brand this with your logo, with your disclosure information. You can make sure that you send the right thing to them. So you can either send the entire report or bits of that, like the summary report can be used as a strong documentation piece or as an introductory letter to the prospect, where you will be able to show what you can do for them, and then you can follow up with the rest of the reports here. The third objective of this application is to supercharge your sales and marketing with the plan screener. As I promised, I'm going to show you how it works. So you can add different criteria for search, such as plan name or sponsor name, the allocation, total number of participants. I know from my experience that the best way to look for plans in your area that you can work with is to enter the zip code and put the radius around it. So if you hit search, you'll be able to see the, so I was able to find 2,600 plans in my area in New York that filed their Form 5500 with Department of Labor. So I will be able to search for plans that are inefficient in terms of fees, like this, and I will be able to see the schedule age, and I will be able to come up with alternative plan that I can suggest to plan participants that they can use in order to improve their retirement accounts. So with that, I want to conclude this demo about this tool, and I want to mention that you can reach us with info and request more information using our contact number, our email, or you can request demo for this product using this link. I'll keep it here for a few more seconds, so those who are interested can write this down, take a screenshot, and with that, I will conclude the presentation and we'll open the floor for the questions.